Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, August 25th, 2023. The IRS free direct file system and its real goal. A May 16, 2023 article at apnews.com discussed the IRS's intention to start a free e-filing income tax system in 2024. The article makes the following points. The IRS published a feasibility report concluding that the majority of surveyed taxpayers would be interested in using an IRS-provided tool to prepare and file their taxes electronically. The new direct e-file program being tested could potentially save taxpayers billions of dollars annually because an individual taxpayer pays an average of $140 preparing their tax returns each year. Depending on the program's usage and scope, the study estimates that annual costs of direct file may range from $64 million for 5 million users to $249 million for 25 million users. Amanda Renteria, CEO of civic tech nonprofit Code for America, said in a statement, "We believe today's announcement is a significant step towards revolutionizing access to the tax system so that it's easier and more equitable. A free and simple direct file service will ensure that more families in America receive the tax benefits that they are eligible for." On the other hand, Steve Ryan, General Counsel of the American Coalition for Taxpayer Rights, now that's an advocacy group for tax companies, said, "A direct e-file system is unnecessary, costly, and will divert attention and resources from more pressing priorities at the IRS." Now, big tax preparation companies have millions of dollars to lose if this program comes to fruition. Between them, Intuit, the parent company behind TurboTax, and H&R Block serviced more than 60 million taxpayers. An Associated Press analysis shows that Intuit, H&R Block, and other private companies and advocacy groups for large tax preparation businesses, as well as proponents in favor of electronic free file, have reported spending $39.3 million since 2006 to lobby on free file and other matters. Now, federal law doesn't require domestic lobbyists to itemize expenses by a specific issue, so those sums are not limited only to free file. In conclusion, now, while there's an understandable lack of trust in a tax filing system designed and run by the IRS, does anyone think that H&R Block and Intuit are spending millions of lobbying dollars opposing the IRS free file system because of their concern for taxpayers? No way. They're concerned about their own bottom lines, and they're outraged because the politicians they thought they bought with their lobbying dollars didn't stay bought. Now, of course, the big tax preparation companies are adamantly opposed to the fair tax because the fair tax would render them obsolete. But eliminating the economic reason for these tax preparation companies to lobby against the fair tax means that a large and powerful opponent has been neutralized. The D.C. elite and their minions were benefiting from the lobbying money paid by these tax preparation companies. So why would they throw their allies under the bus? Well, there's obviously a larger goal in play here. A National Bureau of Economic Research paper published in April of 2022 contained the following statement. Our baseline results indicate that between 66 and 75 million returns, that's 42 to 48% of all returns, could be accurately pre-populated using only current year information and prior year returns. Accuracy rates decline with income, and they're higher for taxpayers who have fewer dependents or are not married. We also examined 2019 non-filers, finding that pre-populated returns tentatively indicate that $8.2 billion in refunds are due to 11 million, that's 20% of them. Now, the answer is clearly stated in that NBER paper. The D.C. elite tell us they want to make it easier on taxpayers by having the IRS calculate our taxes for us and thus eliminate the need for us to file tax returns. But what they're really after is a system that gives them even more control over us than they already have. Taxpayers wanting to dispute the IRS's assessment of what they owe will have to hire professional help and spend countless hours trying to prove the IRS wrong. And the burden of proof will be on the taxpayer, not the IRS. Now, since it can take years and cost thousands of dollars to challenge the IRS, the DC elites know that most taxpayers will find it both easier and cheaper to just pay whatever the IRS is demanding. When the IRS is doing everyone's taxes for them, they will literally have a legal license to take whatever they want from every last one of us. Now, of course, one of the consequences of this plan by the DC elites is that another large group of people, the tax preparation industry, who now profits from the income payroll tax system, will no longer have an economic incentive to support keeping the income payroll tax system in place. They'll have to find new means of generating income. And for the most part, the tax preparer community already understands how the present system is corrupt and bad for the country. Now, some are already supporting the fair tax, but when the remainder no longer derive any economic benefit from the income payroll tax system, they too will demand the fair tax. Now, in Mein Kampf, Hitler told the world what he was going to do when he came to power. However, his warnings were largely ignored, and most world leaders thought they could simply appease him and continue to live in peace. Well, Winston Churchill said, "An appeaser is one who feeds a crocodile, hoping it will eat him last." Like Hitler, the DC elite believe that the vast tax preparation industry will sit quietly as their income is eliminated. By the time any serious opposition arises, it'll be too late. The crocodile will have already eaten them. Now, this total control over our lives is what the DC elite really want, and they arrogantly believe that they deserve it. They've convinced themselves that they are so much smarter than we are that it's therefore really in our best interest for us to cede control of our lives over to them so they can do what's best for us. After all, we work for them, don't we? Well, if you don't like this dismal future and want to have the power to control the amount of taxes you pay by how much you spend, then there is an alternative, H.R. 25, the fair tax. The fair tax transfers power from the government and bureaucrats to the people. We, not the bureaucrats in D.C., decide how much tax we pay. Now, Congress in D.C. know that there's a better alternative to the present system, the fair tax. So, instead of spending time and money doing endless hours of paperwork that don't create anything of value for yourself, your family, or the nation, why not just eliminate this unnecessary waste? Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? When the fair tax is enacted, there will be no need to fear being audited by the IRS or raided by armed IRS agents because there will be no more IRS. Now, there's going to be a vote on the fair tax in the House of Representatives. Speaker McCarthy and the other elites didn't want it, but it was forced on them. So we now have the opportunity to force all members of the House to show where they stand. They can vote for the present income payroll tax system, or they can vote for the fair tax. They can support the corrupt income tax system in the IRS, or they can vote to eliminate it. It can't be any simpler than that. They can hide the true cost of government, or they can pass the fair tax and show everyone the true cost of government on every retail receipt. And finally, they can support the largest transfer of power from the government to the people, the fair tax, or they can vote against it. Now, if members think the fair tax needs to be changed, then they can propose that change. Don't let them get away with rejecting the entire bill because it has a flaw in it that can be easily addressed. Please stand with us and demand that your representatives support a much fairer, much simpler, and much more efficient way to fund the government, the fair tax. The fair tax does not pick winners and losers. Because it taxes spending, not earnings, the fair tax lets everyone save for their retirement tax-free. The fair tax will allow us to take back control. The income payroll tax system is broken. It's no longer working. We can't repair it, but we can replace it with the fair tax. Join us and take back control of our country and our lives, not with bullets, but with the elimination of one of the biggest threats to our liberty and economic prosperity, the income payroll tax. We should all remember Edmund Burke's warning that applies to our efforts to take back control. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. We should also remember this quote from George Orwell's 1984, which, if we do nothing, may foretell your and your children's future. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. So what can each of us do? We can write letters and make calls to our elected representatives and attend Zoom town hall meetings demanding that if they really want to allow Americans to take back control, the first step is to eliminate the income payroll tax system and enact the fair tax. Take back control. Help us pass the fair tax. Help us bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing or investing $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for Fair Taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to fairtax.org and invest in AFFT. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at fairtax.org.